doing it. Does anybody know this book?
No, but the cover is cool.
Yeah. The author gave it to me outside. I don't think it's I think it's good.
Yeah, it's probably your next movie.
Yeah. Works.
Here, don't worry.
The star of our movie has finally arrived. She's so popular. Okay. Where do you want us?
You have to choose between this one and this one. Where do you want to say?
I don't know. We've been in the middle. Where are you going?
Wide. You will be
Where are you
there.
going to be?
I'm going to be on the corner.
Okay, we're here. Come on, Joanna. We do the middle. The lights are good.
Okay, so you have to...
No, I'll be here. I got more light. Sorry. Here we go. Okay.
Water. We need water.
Yeah, perfect. There's water, but you're the one thing. You're the most important person. You have the bottle over there. Some sparkling water.
Still water for me, please. Sorry,
Yeah, no, of course.
Oh, okay. I speak second. I always say, I don't know how to say ahoy.
Ahoy.
And some bad words that I learned yesterday. I'm not going to say that.
Is it working?
Where do I put this? Here?
They're working. I hear them. Where is the translator?
Right there. Oh, nice.
Hello.
Hi.
Joanna can say ahoy in Czech just for you guys to know. So if you ask questions in Czech, you can say ahoy.
I speak English.
Lady.
You can say ahoy.
Ahoy. Ahoy. The Queen. Ahoy.
And Nasrovi.
You like a lot.
What?
You like a lot.
I learned more words, but I'm not going to say them here.
She learned from the president
Yes.
of your fine country,
We don't.
who has
We
been
don't.
spreading the vocabulary of the Czech vocabulary to the world. What is the word?
I'm not going to say that.
We don't want to know that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm trying to start here the press conference for the movie. The movie. It's gonna be presented today
Today,
at 2 p.m. at the Grand Hall.
2 p.m. Grand Hall. I'm translating.
Please welcome the Portuguese actress Joana Ribeiro.
Ahoy. Because I'm that type of person.
She's playing, of course, Angelica in the movie, and one of the most distinguished contemporary filmmakers and movie directors, Terry Gilliam. Terry has already visited Karlovy in 2006 with his movie Thailand. Some of you might remember it. It has been a long 12 years, Terry. So welcome.
I survived. Very much like the soldier Schweik.
I should say that the movie is called The Man Who Killed Don Quixote. And the press conference is going to take just, I don't know, half an hour, 40 minutes, 35 minutes, up to you. And so the floor is open. It took 29 years. We'll just start from the very first row. Nick.
Hello, here. Nick Holdsworth from the Hollywood Reporter.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of trials and tribulations on the road. Most recently, a Portuguese producer who wants to sue Cannes and sue Carly Wright, shown the movie. Two questions really. What's that all about? Does that threaten the movie, and has it been worth it?
Yes. I mean, it was the most nerve-wracking part of the shoot, because I was so nervous that we would not be as good as people's expectations. because everybody, ever since Lost in La Mancha, have been able to imagine what the film might be. And people's imaginations are usually much better than mine. And the first couple of weeks were very difficult, but the actors were so brilliant, and the work was so difficult. Very quickly I forgot about what anybody else thought about the movie. It was about surviving and having a good time while we were making it, and that was it. And luckily the result, when it finally was finished, when I finally started, knew it was over, and we'd done all the editing, put the music on. I love the movie, so whatever else anybody else thinks, I'm very happy. Thank you.
There's a gentleman right here.
Hi, Harri Rampati from Finland. I'm really curious to know how this version we finally see differs from what you wrote 25 plus years ago. What's changed, and also what's changed with your relationship of the Don Quixote myth?
It changed a lot over the years because Tony Grisoni, who I co-write with, we just wanted to keep at least fooling ourselves. We were doing a new movie each time we would rewrite it. And the big change is in the version with Jean Rochefort and Johnny Depp, the character of Johnny gets hit in the head. It basically ends up in the 17th century. And for various reasons, it turned out to be more interesting to keep it in our contemporary world. For one reason, it was cheaper. I didn't have to remove telephone wires, or if planes flew overhead, I didn't have to CG those out. So for one reason, it was very pragmatic, but the most important change was that the character that Adam plays, Toby, had made a film about Don Quixote 10 years earlier. And now he's going back to that time when he was young, optimistic, pure, to see all the people he worked with, who he had a wonderful time. And when he returns to that village, he discovers he's turned many lives upside down. And then the film became more about what films do to the audience, what they do to the people who participate in the making of the film. And films are dangerous things, is all I know. And so the movie just got better and better, and we were able to finally create a Dulcinea. Because in the book, Dulcinea is maybe just a peasant, rather whorish girl. Quixote thinks she's beautiful, wonderful, not at all. And we had never solved that problem in our earlier scripts, but by going back and having the young, innocent Angelica believe that she could be a movie star thanks to our friend Toby. And she goes out into the world and it doesn't work out very well. And she ends up very much a whorish kind of girl, and she's wonderful for it. I say so. Joanna speaks so much more intelligently about Angelica. And it's been, what's been so interesting, and I read in the paper today, she said, Toby sold
It's right here,
soul.
guys. It's actually a Cosmopolitan, it's not a festival
There you
daily
go.
paper.
Yeah. And she said, Toby sold his soul. She only sold her body. And that is an incredible description of this character. And particularly important these days when women are being portrayed as victims everywhere. Joanna and Angelica take responsibility for their choices in life, like all of us should be doing. I'm tired of being a victim.
Thank you. There is a lady in the third row.
So I want to ask about Toby. Obviously, as you just said, he has this movie going and he goes back to his old movie and he's a bit bitter, he's a bit worn out, and things are not coming along very well. So how can you relate to that? Do you see yourself in that character, Toby? Is there some of your history of bitterness in that movie? And the second question is, will it still run within a competition in any festival?
Well, Toby is the character I hope I avoided being. Because I mean, I've done a few commercials in my life. They pay extraordinary amounts of money for selling dog food and 3-ply toilet paper. In fact, I remember in 2002 I did the Nike World Cup commercial. I was being paid for 10 days' work, more than I was going to be paid for the year and a half of my life making Don Quixote. It's very corrupting, and that is, unfortunately, is what happened to the character of Toby. Success had corrupted him, and he had lost his soul in the pursuit of material success. And that was not in the original versions of the film, and so I think we got to something that's much deeper. I've watched so many talented filmmakers who begin, they make their first film, wonderful, and then they get dragged into the seductive world of commercials, where you make real good money, and they never get back to making the kind of films they were capable of. So it's a warning for young filmmakers, this film. The second part, there was not competition.
It's still going to be some competition. Sorry.
It's still going to run in a competition somewhere, because in Cannes here was shown not in competition.
I don't know what's happening here, but I was in Munich yesterday and discovered the film was in competition. I hate competition. I didn't put it in competition. If it's in there, it was a surprise to me, because I don't like competition with films. I think the only time I feel good about competition is when it's a young filmmaker who wins the prize. It gives them a big chance to start a career. For old farts like me, I don't give a shit if I win or lose. It's too late.
There's a lady at the very back. Yep.
Hej.
Hello.
Ahoj.
Já bych se ještě chtěla zeptat, když jste musel hledat úplně nové obsazení pro ty hlavní postavy, tak jestli jste dělal kamerové zkoušky, jestli jste dělal castingy, nebo jste věděl, koho do těch rolí chcete obsadit? Děkuji.
The one thing I knew for certain is I didn't want Jonathan Pryce in the part of Quixote. That was the only thing I was certain of. But unfortunately, Michael Palin quit and I was stuck with Jonathan. This is a joke. Jonathan is utterly brilliant. And for 15 years he was trying to convince me that he was right for the part. And for 15 years I avoided him. And I can't imagine a better Quixote now. And the thing that pleases me the most is the Spanish think it's the best Quixote ever. So the idea of an actor from Wales who speaks only English ends up playing this icon from Spain, and the Spanish thinks it's better than anybody could have ever done it, is great. You can see you don't have to be Spanish to be Quixote. Quixote is universal. And what else was the question? But Joanna, I have to be honest, because I cast her before I saw her screen test. And then I saw her screen test. We had one cup of coffee, it was. And I just knew she was the girl for the part. I'd looked at a lot of other girls, and I can't explain it because I worked very instinctively. But we got on very well, and it was great, and I just thought she had the fire, the ability to play this. And the one part I wasn't certain about was whether she could play a 15-year-old as well as a 26, 27-year-old, or 30-year-old woman, whatever you're supposed to be. And that was the great surprise for me, just how brilliant she was as this 10-year younger girl who was so innocent, sweet, and wonderful. Everybody fell in love with her. And then they had to live with the older woman. It was the one part in the film that I was so worried that we'd have to get two actors to play it. And both Joanna and Adam are utterly extraordinary playing the 10-year younger versions of themselves. It's beautiful. What did he say to you in that scene?
Yeah. What do you have to say about that?
About the character? Well, for me it was a great opportunity, because I think that the fact that I was able to play both 15-year-old and 25-year-old Angelica gave me the experience, and it was easier to play the older one after playing the younger one, because it's part of her life, and if it was someone else playing it, it wouldn't be the same, because I had the chance to see her grow up and to see the experiences that she went through, and for me it was amazing to do that.
Thank you. There's still the microphone at the back, the lady there, standing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to ask you what this film means personally to you, and you said before about corruption that happens to Toby, the character, and it's something you hoped you avoided in your career and life. And I wondered, you know, it's a great advice for young filmmakers. I happen to have one in my house. So it's my son. It's great, but they live in a world of zero theorem that you made, and which is, by the way, my favorite film. So, if you can comment on this, and maybe, you know, I read some descriptions what this film means to you, dream coming true, but I would prefer to hear from you something, you know. Thanks.
When I have to talk to young people who want to go into the film business, the first thing I say, learn a proper trade. Become a plumber, an electrician, something useful. So in those years between the moments when you're able to make a film and not have a proper way of making a living. And the second thing is patience, because it doesn't come easy. It's not a human right to be a film director. It's an expensive business. And the thing is, it's easier, technically easier now to make a film. In fact, even in Quixote, we've got scenes we shot with a GoPro. That's what's in the film. And so the technology makes it easy. The internet makes it easy also to put it out and be seen. But there's so many films out there that how do you draw attention of the audience to go and watch your film so you can make some money, so the people who give you the money to make the film can get their money back and give you money for the next film. These are the difficult things, and I don't know. I don't have a solution for any of that. It's a very difficult profession to get involved with, and it's going to be hard. Everybody somehow thinks, oh, it would be great, I want to be a film director. I advise people, don't become a film director unless you are so passionate about the work, what you want to say. You have something important to say to the world, some incredible talent that will not let you go. If you don't have that, there's so many other ways to live your life much more happily. That's all.
You don't know that. Katarzyna?
Katarzyna Kadlecová, Reflex. Well, no, I will speak English, hopefully. Well, we all know that this project, the shooting of your movie, was probably the most cursed project of the filmmaking history. And I wanted to ask you whether still some troubles occurred once you wrapped the shooting. Were there any difficulties after that?
Have you read anything about the Cannes Film Festival?
Everything.
There were a few problems. I'm paying no attention to those problems because I have no control over those problems. So the film is done. As my wife says, you made a wonderful film. Relax, forget about it. It lived. The film will live. And whatever else is going on legally or bullshitty. I mean, there are statements in the press from a certain person whose name I can't remember. It's utter crap. It's total bullshit. And I'm afraid the press loves it. And it's a good story, but it's not interesting to me. Thank you.
Hello, gentleman in the first row.
Hello, I'm Lars Tunschei from Germany, and I have a question. You said that it's easier to produce films nowadays, or to make films nowadays with the technical advantages that we have, but it's more and more difficult to make money from it, and the streaming is of course one very big issue of this. So what do you think about streaming and about TV, and is that something for you, or are you still living for the big screen?
For me, it's very frustrating because I began on TV and I escaped TV for a big screen. And now the screen is being reduced not just to TV, but to your iPhone. And this is making me crazy because, and I don't know what to do about it. I know I make films to be seen on a big screen. The cinematic experience is very different from watching it on your iPhone. I love the fact you go into a kind of temple, a dark temple, and this great screen there, and a storyteller takes you into his world, and the screen, the story is big, you're little. And now on the iPhone, you're the big thing, and you're watching a film like this. And it's ridiculous. It's not the experience anymore. You can say, oh, I saw it, but it didn't have any effect on me. Films should have an effect on you, and I don't think they do when you're watching them that size, and you're the big thing. So the audience is everything, the storyteller is minimal. But there's nothing you can do about it. this film began with Amazon involved, because Amazon, okay, streaming, but they guaranteed the film would be in the cinema on the big screen for 90 days. That's very different than Netflix, and I think a lot of filmmakers are drawn to that, because we do work at a certain scale. It's important. It's not going to change. Netflix is making, there's almost too many choices now. You don't have to live your life anymore. You can just spend 24 hours every day watching another movie on Netflix. It's not much of a life. And it worries me that people are not in the real world paying attention to what's going on around them in reality, and they're just getting lost in 24-hour entertainment. It worries me. I can't do much about it except moan and complain.
Yeah.
That's it.
I've seen two hands in the fourth, whatever row, right here. Here in the middle, in the middle, in the middle, in the middle, two rows, in the middle. Thanks.
Podskalská deník, dobrý den.
Thank you.
Já také pogratuluji k našemu projektu, který jste úspěšně dotáhl do konce. A ještě se k němu trochu vrátím a zeptám se na trochu osobnější věc. Kolikrát jste zapochyboval během té kalvárie o tom, že vlastně ten projekt máte dokončit, protože byl opravdu asi trochu prokletý. A co vám pomáhalo v těch nejslabších chvílích, jestli jste měli nějaké svoje modlitbičky nebo rituály, nevím. Děkuju.
No, yes, I doubted it a lot. I doubted it even more once we started actually shooting. That's what worried me. That we got this far, the cameras are rolling, I've got a cast, and something disastrous is going to stop it this time again. I don't know. I'm a lucky guy because I have a bad memory. So all the difficulties, all the depression, all the nightmares, I forget. I remember the good bits. And that's how I'm able to keep going. And also, I just felt Orson Welles, who's a great hero of mine, didn't manage to finish his film. I felt I just had to do it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, two questions really. I'll skip from Iceland, sorry. What was the original attraction to the Don Quixote story? And secondly, you mentioned swag. Is that something you'd like to direct at some point? It sort of makes sense somehow to me.
The Quixote is just, Quixote has existed now, how many, 400 years is it? 500? 1605, Quixote came onto the planet. And he's always been there. And it's not just Quixote, it's Quixote and Sancho. It's the two sides of every one of us. We all have a pragmatic, practical side. We all have a side of dreams and ambition and hope. And that's why it's so wonderful. And I, like everybody else, had never read the book. Nobody reads the book, unless you're a Spanish school child who is beaten until they read the book. And they all hate Quixote. And I talked to Jake Edwards, who was the executive producer of Baron Munchausen, and I said, I need $20 million. I got two names, Jake. One is Quixote, the other is Gilliam. He said, you got the money. And that's how it began. That was 1989. And then I read the book. And I thought, this is a bit more difficult than I thought it was going to be. And it's been like that. It's been trying to find it. In a sense, I don't know if I chose Quixote. I really think Quixote chose me. I've always felt the film is using me. I am victimized by Quixote and the film process. I have been dragged along to get this thing done. And I honestly, even when we were shooting, I feel I'm not making the film. The film is making itself. And it really is a different film than I began to make. It's a better one. So the film making process is more creative than me just fighting on to finish it. And the second question, see, my memory's bad. I forgot the second one.
You mentioned swag.
Swag, yeah. This is what I loved. I mean, working on Brothers Grimm here, I loved Prague. And Schweik, Czech humor is always this very bleak black, but the Czechs march on. The Czechs are survivors. And you learn to laugh at survival. That's what's important. We don't laugh enough anymore. The world, everybody's pretending the world is so much more serious than it was before. That's utter bullshit. We are living in the best of times. There's less violence now, there's more wealth, there's everything now, and we're all moaning. And I'm tired of it. So I like Schweik. He just marches on, and he smiles, and he finds the humor, the absurdity in life. And life is absurd. And luckily death comes along and stops the absurdity eventually.
I want to know, Joanna, if kids in Portugal are also forced to read Don Quixote at the elementary school. Is it the same?
No, we have to read Fernando Pessoa, Luís de Camões, Essa de Queiroz, Portuguese writers, very well-known writers and amazing writers. But Don Quixote, no, I read it because I love to read, and I read it when I was a kid because we have this small version for kids. So, yeah, that's why.
How does that go? Windmill, bang, out. Okay, chapter 2. Windmill, bang, out.
Not that small, okay? That'll be a short film, not a film.
Don Quixote for dummies. Okay, the gentleman in the second row.
Aleszewski, if I may quote in English the synopsis of your film, Toby used to be an idealistic film student, today he's a cynical director of commercials. To what extent this is about you? I think the first time not, the second time not at all. I think you made commercials for a living, or?
Yeah, I made commercials, I think that's what I said, I made this Nike commercial, 10 days work, I was getting paid more money than I would for making the film. So it's very corrupting. And every time I've ever done a commercial, I come out feeling like I've been a whore, I've been dirtied, I feel ashamed. And then it's only when I get unable to make whatever film I'm trying to make, and I eventually become so depressed, I said, I've got to do something, so I'll sell some toilet paper, and I do a commercial, and then regret it for the rest of my life.
Okay, Mirka Spáčová, row number 4.
Dobrý den, Spáčová dnes. Spáčová dnes, dobrý den. Já jsem si vzpomněla, když jste byl u nás v Česku, myslím na festivalu v Písku, tak jste mi v rozhovoru řekl, že až dosud se všechny, že máte vlastně štěstí, že až dosud se všechny vaše filmy zaplatily a některé dokonce vydělaly. Tak mě zajímalo, jestli to platí nadále od té doby, co jste tu byl naposled. Děkuji.
That I'm unlucky or lucky. That was the part I couldn't work on the translation. Did I say I was lucky? Lucky.
Yeah, lucky.
I have been lucky, come on. I've got a nice house, a beautiful family. I eat all the time. I don't know what's wrong, nothing to complain about. It's really, I've been lucky since I was a kid. I was talking about this earlier. I wanted to be an artist, but my parents abused me. They loved me. They gave me everything I wanted, they supported me, and I claim that was abuse if you want to be an artist. Because I thought to be an artist you had to be born blind, crippled, beaten by your parents, so you suffer for your art. And it took me a long time to do my own sadomasochistic suffering to become an artist. No, but I mean, it's and so I've been very lucky. Life has been surprisingly wonderful. I don't get to do what I want to do all the time, but why should any of us be allowed to do what we want to do when we want to do it? I don't. As an American, you're brought up to believe everything is available. You can all become president of the United States, and it doesn't happen. There's only one guy that gets to do that job, and it's usually the wrong one. Anyway. So it's that kind of American optimism that's very useful to get you through all the ups and downs. But the Czech version of optimism is more pragmatic and more honest, maybe better in the long run.
We also have just one president, let me tell you. There is a lady at the very first row, please.
Hi. My name is Alisa Okishova from Film Diplomatic Academy, and I have a question. What's your stylistic source of inspiration for your unique style of film directing?
Drugs. No, I don't know. I don't understand how ideas come to me. They just come to me. I'm not like Woody Allen, who spends a fortune with a psychiatrist understanding how his brain works. I was born a mutant. I was born, my brain doesn't work like everybody else's. It needs to be repaired. But I'm not going to get it repaired because it keeps me in business. I don't know. Everything around is inspirational if you look at it with open eyes. If you sort of maintain a childlike quality. I want to surprise myself, so when I look out and I see something, I turn it into something else to see if it could be that. And so I'm always playing in my head. And that's it, and some of those prove to be good ideas. Most of them are shit, though. They're crap ideas. But I have a good editing skill. And then along comes an actor or an actress or actors and actresses. And they bring the real inspiration to me. And that's, Quixote has been the most interesting part of the process. Because having thought about it for 20-some years, I was bored to death with my own thoughts. And the actors would come in, and we would rehearse, we'd start playing. And every day they would surprise me with a different way of doing it. And that was what actually got me through the shoot. They're the reason, they're the things that inspired me. And it's as simple as that. I'm a vampire. I live off other people's talents.
Thank you. Right. You have already beat us the
Hi. Hi, Mark Cook from the UK. You mentioned Baron Munchausen a couple of minutes ago,
yes.
And I saw you did a documentary about Karel Zeman here a couple of years ago. Do you want to say a little bit about that influence on your filmmaking?
But it's very interesting. I don't know what it was as an American, and I started stumbling on Eastern European art, film, posters, mentality, and it really always excited me because it was less optimistic. It was a bit more cynical, but yet it survived. And Zeman, when I first saw Baron Munchausen, taking Gustave Doré's illustrations and turning them into sets and mixing live action with just flat imagery, I thought, it's extraordinary. It was like going back to the beginning of film, the history of film. And it was magical because we are now in such a realistic age where everything is photorealistic and there's no room for your imagination. With Zeman, you have to do so much work to make it come up truly alive because it's a mixture of abstract and flat drawn things in real life. And I think, and it's still inspirational because he surprised me. And suddenly you look at the world in a different way and you look at filmmaking in a different way. And you also work in the limitations he worked with. It's always interesting to be limited and forced to do things in a simpler way or a different way. And now we live in an age where, who is Karel Zeman? Forgotten almost. And it was nice being part of that documentary to remind the world of what a genius he was and what an inspiration. Tim Burton also loved Zeman. The brothers Quay loved Zeman. And it's something, and I kind of miss this, like Czech and Polish posters for theater and film. I so much more prefer those than what we do in the West. I guess that's where we live, somewhere in the third world, West, England. Because everything is now just specific, and there's no room for your imagination. And the whole point is to leave room for the audience to imagine more than you're able to do. But now everything is there. It's all there. We can just sit back and turn your brain off and go to sleep. 2 hours later, you wake up and back to the real world. It's not good enough, I don't think.
Okay, Mecca again, and then the lady.
Já bych se ráda zeptala.
Sorry. Where is it? I can't see it.
Já bych se... Tady už se předtím stala. Já bych se ráda zeptala na jednu věc ohledně skupiny Monty Python. Nedávno nejen britským tiskem prošel velmi kontroverzní rozhovor s programovým šéfem BBC, že dnes už by se takový pořad vysílat nemohl. Samý bílí muži, Jak byste to komentoval? Nás to téměř rozplakalo tady. Děkuji.
Well, that's what it... No, it made me cry too. It made me angry. The idea that comedy or a show, it may be the truth, it may be the reality right now, that no longer can 6 white Oxbridge men make a comedy show. Now we need one of this, one of that. We need everybody represented in a comedy. This is bullshit. And it has driven me, and I think I have to say the truth. Now, she knows, she's heard the story, because I no longer want to be a white male. I don't want to be blamed for everything wrong in the world. I tell the world right now, I'm a black lesbian. Thank you. My name is Loretta, the BLT, and I'm not talking about a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich. I'm talking about a black lesbian in transition. So just, you'll have to call me Loretta from now on. I mean, I just found that statement made me so angry. It made all of us in Python very angry, because comedy isn't assembled. It's not like a boy band where you get one of these, one of those, sing them all together, and now we've got a band. You can't do boy bands anymore. You've got to have a girl, right? We have to have every color on the planet. We have to have every, no, you need a dog in a boy. I want to be trans-species as well. It's not above, transgender is not enough. Trans-species is what we got. Or I want to be Hitler, like we used to want to be. So many people want to be Hitler, especially film directors. Anyway, that was it. It was a dumb, I thought it was a very stupid comment. It's probably true, though, that now the BBC, when they're assembling any group, it's got to cover every group of people on the planet. So everybody's, we were talking about earlier how, as an actress, she shouldn't have been playing a Spanish girl. She's not Spanish, she's Portuguese. She knows nothing about what it's like to be a Spanish woman. And it's like, it's gotten crazy right now, because there's so many people saying, well, if you're going to play whatever, you've got to be that person. Then you don't need actors anymore. We might as well get rid of actors and just hire the real people. What boring films those will be. Actors do something more than just be specifically of one place, of one color, of one sex. They transform characters, and characters are not any of those. The great thing about the great characters is they're all of that. Every character is a man, is a woman, is a powerful person, is a victim, is everything. That's what makes great characters. And I think life needs more great characters in it, not just on film. Anyway, I'm done preaching.
And also it was a completely hypothetical question from the BBC guys, because there are no new Monty Pythons anyway. There's just not a new group of such a wonderful comedians, so he was just raising a non-existing issue, really, in a way. Maybe they would let them work, but they just weren't born. I mean, the group of yours was so unique, you know.
Well, we did have one American in the group, and we had one gay guy in the group. That was the beginning of the expansion.
Yeah, but then you gave up the American citizenship, so it wasn't.
No, in the end, but Python was finished by the time I became totally British, totally European, just in time for Brexit.
Okay, I mean, I think we are sort of heading towards the last 5 minutes, because otherwise they will miss the movie, which would be kind of sad after the 29 years. But okay, so last 3 questions.
Yes.
Sorry.
So it's me again. I have one more question to the content of the movie, actually. So you mentioned the dreams and how important they are, and obviously Don Quixote is the loony guy who lives in his own world, but Toby is your main character, and we see all those dreams, all those references to real life through his vision, through his mind. And every time we see Quixote dream, it's actually really sad. Like a woman locks him up for years, and people laugh at him when he drops to the moon. So it's actually kind of almost pathetic. And I want to ask, do we ever see his dreams, his vision of him on the high horse saving people, or is it all just Toby that he wanted to show?
That's the next film. We send him off into the sunset as the new Quixote. We've actually been talking about maybe the next Quixote has got to be a woman. So Angelica, who is now Sancho Panza, will maybe transform into Doña Quixote. Who knows the future? Toby's dreams, I don't know what Toby's dream. It was very interesting doing Toby's film, because when we wrote the film, we never wrote scenes for Toby's film. And as we went along, we had to kind of invent him, because I think he was probably making a better film than the one I made. I think he was the real talent, Toby.
Rahid, could you go the first one?
I've seen the film. I just want to ask, what was the most technically difficult parts of it? Did you make all of the student film, or just the little clips we saw? And finally, are you going to go give them a new pair of socks at that poster store in Prague?
I missed the last part.
Are you going to give them a new pair of socks for the poster store in Prague? You left your, there's the.
I think I'm going deaf.
No.
Something my hearing aids aren't working.
When you were making Brothers Grimm, you gave your
Yeah.
pair of socks to that poster store in Prague. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Are you going to give them a new pair?
I'm going to go back
It's been a
tonight.
long time.
I'm going to Prague tonight. I want to see if the sock is still there.
It is.
It is there.
Yeah.
It is.
That was, listen, I love being in Prague. I'm really excited to get back because it's been a long time since I've been there. And the guys in the shop are wonderful. It's a really good shop. That whole cinema complex and that are wonderful. I don't know, I miss being here, quite honestly, because it was really a special time. And I kind of get lost in that city. I just get completely seduced by it, and I wander. So, but your first question was Toby's film.
Yeah. Did you make the whole thing, or just a few scenes we saw?
What you see is all we got. I was faking it all the time. In fact, what's so great is there's one scene. It's when very early on, when we're in the bedroom with Jackie and him in the film first comes on the television. There's this madman throwing things, leaping, and Coyote's riding along. He's mad, he's crazy with love, pay no attention. We shot that with a GoPro at the end of the day with only three people, the three actors, and a couple of people from the sound crew, because we'd run out of time. Everything was fake. So, and Nicola, my DP, had put his GoPro, stuck it on the back of an iPad, and we grabbed Jonathan, the crazy guy, and Sancho, and we just ran to this place, and we shot the whole scene just like that, boom. And it was great fun, suddenly using a GoPro on the back of an iPad. It's the way to make movies. I think the next movie I make will be Toby's movie. Is that?
Yeah, that's fine.
It's fine. Joanna, what do you like about Terry Gilliam's movies? Now we are going to be here for another 45 minutes.
Oh, nice. What I like about Terry's films is that most of them talk about the importance of imagination and how imagination can actually change someone's lives. And I think that's what art is. Like, a book can change a nation and can change a person. I'm reading a book by Nikolai Chernyshevsky, What to Do, and that was the book that inspired a revolution in October and started the Soviet Union. So, and it was a simple book that he wrote in prison, and that changed so many lives. And I think Terry talks about that in his films, the importance of imagination and how your life is before and after, and this film is like that. It's like how the lives of Angelica and Javier were changed after Toby was there with the film. And films can change life, like Terry said. And yeah, and I think Terry is a genius, and he's completely different from every other director. He's very specific, and he's a cult director, and I loved working with him, and I loved his films. I grew up watching them, and to have the opportunity to work with him and to be part of his world and his mind was very special.
And all I ever wanted to be was Steven Spielberg, not a cult director. I've been limited. My fan base is so tiny.
Well, I kind of feel that to leave today with the quote that Terry Gilliam is a genius, as Joanna said.
Yes.
It's kind of appropriate ending of this press conference. So, if you don't mind, I would thank our distinguished guests. I wish them the best now at 2 p.m. opening at the Grand Hall, and I thank you for the attention. Enjoy the festival.